And welcome to Capital Talk, a program we hope will have an impact on the future of Kenya. Now more than ever, I'm Jeff Koinange, and if you're watching The Bench this week, you know the theme, CEOs, what makes them tick. On The Bench today, a man who's definitely at the top of his game. And you know what? It just goes to show that hard work pays off, because he's been in the business 40 years, he'll tell you, 40. He started off making photocopies. And the rest, as they say, is history, folks. He was passed over for a promotion. He worked for McCann back in the day, passed over, quit, started his own company, one-man company called Scan. From there, folks, he started swallowing up, getting all the best talent, growing by leaps and bounds. Today, market capitalization, he tells me as of yesterday, 15 billion shillings. That's huge. That's a Scan Group in 8 countries across the continent and 27 affiliates as well in Africa. He's the largest market services company in the region, period. But he says it's hard work. It's not a given. And no, he is not a monopoly. He'll be the first to tell you. Sit back, folks. This is going to be a good one, because you all want to know the secret of the man on Twitter as Bharat Thakrar, at Bharat Thakrar. The CEO of Scan Group is on the bench. Sit back. Bharat, I forgot to mention, you don't like wearing ties.
No, I stopped wearing ties a long time ago.
Why?
I don't know. I think that I cannot wear ties when I go for my shareholders meeting, and I go wear a tie when I have my investor briefing. That's it. Or for weddings and receptions.
Yeah.
But I think it just chokes you up.
I have no answer to that. I'm about to take mine off. So you started off making photocopies?
Yeah, that was, I think it was 1972. And we had the All Africa Trade Fair taking place here. And so I started working in this company. It was a PR company called Associated Publicity. And, they took me on as a dog's body. And they needed someone to make photocopies of the press releases and put them on these little pigeonholes, which all the journalists had come for the trade fair. So that was my job. I'd wait for them to write the press release, quickly go and make photocopies, yellow, pink, blue, green, put them in the little pigeonholes, and that was my first job.
That was it?
That was it.
My goodness. And then after that, what made you go into advertising?
My father was a commercial director of an advertising agency, back in the 60s. So, when I was growing up, I'd spend a bit of time, on Saturdays. He'd take me to the agency. I'd spend time in the studio and watching these guys paint, little paint brushes, little packets of Rex cigarette. And it fascinated me. And I said, this is something that's interesting. And I when you're young, it fascinates you. And then I always kept an eye on it. I then went to boarding school. In boarding school, I started editing the newsletter. I started putting little ads for the tuck shop. Mm-hmm. Then I became the film secretary. So I would show movies every second week in the boarding school. And I started creating posters for these movies. And big little posters, do little cutouts, put a little headline. Yeah. So that was when I was in 14, 15 years old.
So it was always in the blood?
So I think always in the blood, yeah.
And with the job at McCann, was that a big deal? Because obviously, you get hired by a company like that back in the day. That must have been a big deal.
Yeah, it was, because I was handling one of their key clients. In those days, it was Unilever, and then we used to work on a lot of the pitches, used to win a lot of their new business. And then they had an expat manager. He wanted to leave. And I thought that, I'll be, the deserving next person to run the agency, and I didn't get the job. So I said, all right, well, this is not my scene. I'm not going to last much longer here, and I left. And a friend of mine was getting frustrated as well. So we didn't go into advertising soon after that. I actually set up a company to manufacture sundry foods, tomato ketchup, potato crisps, and stuff like that. And then we set up a distribution company. So I did that for about 18 months. And that taught me a lot, because you have to go take do a bit of a van selling job, go door to door selling your product throughout the country. So you kind of see the challenges that companies would face. And then I didn't really enjoy that. So I told this friend of mine, who then eventually became my brother-in-law, I married his sister. And this is not my scene. And I started Scanad December 1982.
As a one-man outfit?
As a one-man outfit, yeah.
So when was the big break?
I think the big break was KCB. KCB put the account to pitch, and they had, I think, every agency in town participated. I managed to get myself invited to the pitch, and I had no team, but I realized that I needed the client more than anybody else did. So I did a clever thing. I took the brief, hired a bunch of freelancers in London, borrowed money, took a plane ticket, went down there, sat with them for 2 weeks, developed the whole campaign, brought it here and presented it. And we finally made it to the short list. And then I remember, and maybe this gentleman is watching right now, Dr. Benjamin Kipkorir. And we finally made a short list, and then they came to visit me because they wanted to make sure that I've actually got an agency running. And they came to me, and I was right behind here, Long Honor Place. So a small team of guys from KCB came, and they looked around, and we were only like 5 people in the office. So this gentleman by the name of Chris Muraya is asking me, he says, look, you're just starting up. How sure are you that you're actually going to be able to run this business? So then I met his chairman, and the chairman asked me the same question, Dr. Kipkorir. And I told him, I said, look, this is the start of something that I think one day will become very big. And if you guys give me the account, then, you would have made a difference. So, that's really where the turning point was.
And they did.
And they did. And recently, I think he was chairman of a fund when we were doing the IPO. And somebody went to the fund and said, we want to invest in Scan Group, and what do you think? And Dr. Kipkorir said, well, that man, I know him because I got him off the ground. So I've got all the confidence in him. Yeah. So we should invest in Scan Group.
Look at that. Which listed, 5-6 years ago on the Nairobi Stock Exchange?
Yeah, 2006, 2006.
Goodness, that's huge.
Yeah.
And you're affiliated, or you're partners with WPP, the world's largest advertising company?
Yeah, they are the largest shareholder right now in Scan Group. They have a 33% stake. We also have joint ventures with them in Ogilvy, Hill & Knowlton, Millward Brown, and our digital company. These 4 are joint ventures with WPP because they are a marketing services company like us. And Martin Sorrell set up the company, I don't know, I think 30-40 years ago, and he bought different agencies. He was the finance director of Saatchi's many years ago, and so they're very strong in all the multiple disciplines that today we require to be in, and so it made sense for us to get them on board as a shareholder, and they are the anchor shareholder and a strategic partner for us right now.
Yeah, and in Africa, you're pretty big.
I think pretty big is the wrong word, actually. I think Africa, nobody's big at the moment, right? Even us. I think East Africa we have, fairly good presence and a fairly good amount of strength. But in the other markets, we're still a small player. We're getting in. That's where the challenge is. And if I just briefly explain here, what is the game plan? Right? The game plan is that you have about 14 to 15 large multinational companies who have got huge investment strategies for Sub-Sahara, right? Some of them are in the telco, in beverages, and in FMCG and financial services. So if you look Unilever, Nestle, Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, Saab Miller, Diageo, Airtel, Vodacom, MTN. So these are the big players investing in Africa at the moment, and these guys have got huge ambitions to go into a lot of these developed emerging markets, DRC, Angola, Nigeria, Francophone Africa. And what they require at the moment is global best practice in all the disciplines that they require. So whether it's market research, PR, digital, above the line, and because they have to make huge investments in marketing to get consumers to start buying their product. So they look for partners like us who are going to invest with them in these markets so we can deliver the services to them across these markets. And so when you get a client, you are making promises that you will make sure that you deliver to them in country X or country Y. And we have to rely on a local partner to deliver that. Now the local partner, in terms of his quality, may not be as good as the client expectation. So we have a challenge A, either to buy him out, right? And then, build capability and capacity. Or if he doesn't want to sell, do a joint venture with him. Or if he doesn't want to do a joint venture, help him build local capability and capacity so that he can meet client expectations.
That's a lot of work, huh?
So that's really what we need to do. And we've started on that journey. We started on that journey 5 years ago. First thing for us was to get an infrastructure. So Ogilvy was the infrastructure that we got. And so Ogilvy had the best agencies in every country. Some of them we had minority stakes. Some of them we just had affiliation relationships. So what are we doing right now is on one side building capability and capacity for these people. On the other side, trying to acquire them or trying to invest in them, doing joint ventures with them. So we're saying we're bringing in some cash on the table. There's an exit strategy for you, but we need to up the game. We need to bring better quality people. And the challenge is that some of these places are not the best places in the world where you attract the best talent. So you may have a fantastic creative guy, but he doesn't want to go and work in Kinshasa. He doesn't want to go and work in some of these places because they're not exactly, God's gift for lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so, those are the challenges that we have to live with, on a daily basis. So trying to deliver a high level of standard of creativity, media buying, digital in these markets. Which are very, very challenging.
Yeah. And the client is very discerning in a lot of these cases. These names that you mentioned, these are the big boys of the continent. They're very discerning, aren't they?
Yeah, they're very demanding. It's. I always give this example. You're staying in Intercontinental. You pay $300 a night. You don't care where the hotel is, whether it's in Kinshasa, or Lubumbashi, or in Luanda. You expect the quality of service. Yeah. And you expect they'll speak English, they'll give you the service that you require, and that's the same with the client. So, at the moment, the challenge for us is to deliver that consistent quality. But on the other side, the clients are also very supportive because they are facing the same challenges as we are facing, right? So they understand, but they give you so much latitude. They say, listen, we know the problems, we know the difficulties, but hey, come on, you guys have got to get your act together. You have to invest in these markets. Yeah. And so that's really what the game plan for us is.
So when people turn around and call you your company a monopoly, is that a little unfair? Is that uncalled for?
Completely, because we have I put it this way, we have a high presence in Kenya. And the reason we have that was by default, actually. When we were growing, we started acquiring agencies in Kenya. The big difference came when we took the Ogilvy business. Now, I make it very clear to people, we did not invest in Ogilvy necessarily to buy that business in Kenya. We invested in Ogilvy because Ogilvy had a network. Ogilvy had an infrastructure. We couldn't go and buy Ogilvy everywhere else and not buy it in our doorstep. And mind you, that's a 50-50 joint venture. Right? So it's not as if we own 100% of Ogilvy, but the intention wasn't to create dominance in Kenya. The intention was, it's the clients who are based in Kenya, like Coca-Cola, like Airtel, like Nestle, like Unilever, whose ambition is to go out. If you look at Coca-Cola is based here as an HQ, but they look after 39 countries out of here. Look at Nestle, they're looking after 22 countries. So my job is to manage those relationships. And my focus is outside Kenya. We cannot grow anymore in Kenya. Kenya is saturated, yeah. And if I was to give a strategy, this is my Kenya, my growth is curtailed, end of story. I cannot grow anymore here. So I think what happened is people see that, we are a dominant player. And technically, we're not even a dominant player in Kenya because 52% last year, media exposure, actually, that's the right terminology to use, as measured by Ipsos. 52% of was bought by clients direct, not by advertising agencies, right?
Yeah.
Of the 48% that was bought, that's where we have a 70% market share of the 42. So technically, of the advertising industry in Kenya, we only have a 32% market share of advertising exposure. This is the media that is measured by Ipsos. It's not real money that's spent.
Right. But it's still a third.
Yeah, it's a third because we see, because we service a lot of these clients outside Kenya.
Yeah.
We end up looking after them in Kenya as well. You know, Diageo, SAB, Coca-Cola, Unilever, Nestle, P&G, Reckitt and Benckiser, right? These are the clients that are with us in Kenya because we are looking after them outside as well.
We're talking blue chip here.
Well, because but Jeff, they are the guys who have the bigger vision for Africa. Yes, you have also got the regional companies. You've got companies like KCB, right? You have Safaricom in Kenya, and you obviously have people like Kenya Airways, you know, who are Kenyan companies growing outside, right? And so you have those as well. But you know, at the end of the day, the big investment that is being made in places like Angola and DRC is coming from the multinationals.
Absolutely. Is KCB still a client?
Well, we pitched for the business. We're still waiting for a decision.
Is that right? You still have to pitch?
Well, I think what happens is every 2-3 years, you know, procurement requirement requires that you pitch for the business, and I think it's the way they call it. You need to refresh your mandate.
Right. Okay. I want to talk more about that after the break, and also let's come back to Kenya, Bharat, and talk about how come some of these ads or some of these ad companies get such a big percentage of the ad revenue. I'm talking people like Radio Africa. So much ad revenue. Is that people are attracted to that, or is that because of the research that you guys do show that people watch or listen to Radio Africa more than they do anything else? And, you know, TV stations as well.
I think
Let's take a break. Have some water. They call him the humble billionaire. He doesn't like it, but I tell you, he talks the talk. He knows his stuff, and that's why he's been in this business 40 years, folks. It's all about hard work. Imagine beginning as a photocopy KYM, if you will, to what he is now. It's huge, folks. We're talking huge, and he's made it all the way, top of his game. This is a CEO who knows what's ticking. Don't even think of touching that remote control. The bench is literally just warming up. We are back in a moment. And welcome back to Capital Talk. What a pleasure it is to have Bharat Thakrar on the bench. By the way, he's on Twitter. Get on it. And he replies tweets as well, at Bharat Thakrar. This man, literally from rags to riches, if you will, or from photocopier to multi-billionaire. He doesn't like that, folks, but I tell you, he's worked hard for it. And Scan Group is the biggest market service provider in the region. And they are growing by leaps and bounds on the continent. 2 words: sit back. I was talking about, before the break, Brad, I was talking about companies like Radio Africa. They get a huge chunk of the advertising revenue, if you will. Is it because they have such popular DJs and commentators like Maina Kageni, Caroline Mutoko? Are they the ones who attract all this advertising? Because when Maina's on the show, everybody's listening.
I think we call it audience reach. So you get paid by what audience you deliver. The bigger the audience you deliver, the more you get paid. So in other words, when an advertiser is looking for exposure, they're looking at how many people are you going to get to listen to my ad. So if a particular presenter is popular, he has more people listening to that particular program or channel, and therefore it makes sense for the advertiser to advertise during that program. So we have research that shows which channels are doing well, which stations are doing well. The research gets profiled by who we are targeting. So we are targeting a grandmother. She may not be listening to him. She may listen to somebody else. So if we need to talk to the grandmother, we'll find what program she listens to, and we'll advertise there. Most people today target the youth. Most people target the young, what we call 18 to 25. Most clients' target group is 18 to 25. So those are guys we target. Now, radio stations or TV channels that attract that youth group always get more of the ad spend. So it's a science. It's a science. It's not just because we like the presenter. We advertise there because the people listening to that presenter because I like him.
Right.
And we want the audience.
TV as well. Is that the same thing?
Same with TV. Same with TV. Newspaper is based on circulation. Newspaper again, depending on what stories they're on, the higher circulation they have. Nation, for instance, run a nice magazine section on Saturdays. You know, that's very popular, so we'll advertise there. Standard, I think, run a good magazine section on Friday, so we'll advertise there. So it, you know, I mean, there's a science behind it.
Yeah.
And our media strategies will look for, you know, where the audience is and then advertise accordingly.
And where is the science behind people buying the Star, which has come up really fast, hasn't it?
Same thing. It's about fulfilling people's needs. People want entertainment. You provide entertainment, they will switch on. People don't want to read political news. They want to hear lifestyle. They want to see their own pictures. You talk about them, they will buy those newspapers because they see themselves in there, and therefore the advertising will follow accordingly.
Yeah, and is that why, let's say, Nigerian movies or Brazilian soaps or that kind of entertainment, is that why it's so very popular on some channels?
Yeah, but I think the future is going to be African relevant talent, African relevant content. At the moment, one of the problem TV stations, why they're not developing large audiences, is because the content is foreign. If they start making local content, like Citizen is doing a lot of local content, because they're doing a lot of local content, their viewership is higher.
Yeah.
And the game at the moment is about local content.
Yeah.
But that's natural. You know, you want to see entertainment that is relevant to you. You want to see entertainment that resonates with you. Right? That's why reality shows are very popular. Big Brother is going to be very popular now.
Huge.
It's going to be huge because people see themselves in there and they start following it, and it's reality.
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
But in places like Kenya, radio is still king, right?
I think radio is king. Television will become king as well because people like. But you see, what happens is that it's always a mix. If you look at yourself in the morning, you may listen to a radio station. In the evening, when you go home, you're listening to a different radio station. You may watch television, you may not be watching television, you may spend all your time on Twitter or on Facebook, right? You may not read the newspapers at all. Today we find younger generations do not read the newspapers at all. So, we do a lot of research to find out what our audiences are doing, what our target markets are doing, what are their consumer habits in terms of consumption of media, in terms of consumption of the category, in consumption of the particular brand. Try and understand the consumer so that we can engage with the consumer and try and develop insights. So the creative message is developed after having understood consumer insights, media behavior, and then we can target you effectively.
Yeah. You just mentioned Facebook and Twitter a moment ago, Bharat. Are you worried that it's part of your advertising revenue, part of that chunk that you would is being taken away by the Twitters, the Facebook, the social media? Because I can get on Twitter right now and tweet, and 80,000 people will get the message. I'm taking away from your advertising. I don't need to advertise.
No, I think it's not about you taking away from me. I think it's about how the cake is being divided, right? How the marketing services budgets are being divided. So what is happening at the moment, if you look at globally, and everyone's been facing this. I mean, in more developed markets, digital media has grown fast, really fast, at the expense of traditional media. And they are saying that in some of the emerging markets, advertising agencies have become digital agencies, or what we call creative technologists. So we don't have the old creative director who kind of wrote an ad. We now have a creative technologist. This guy will think of creative way of communicating the message using technology, different technologies, right? Television is still a technology. How do you've got movies on demand, etc. So what is happening is that the landscape is changing very rapidly, but our business is not, because we're still in the communication business. We still have to design a message, make sure that the message creates the right level of impulses in you for you to pursue it, to buy the particular product or mindset, right? So that has not changed. What has changed is how we deliver the message. Mm-hmm. So what is happening globally is when we're setting that up here, what we call comms planning agencies. Comms planning agencies or communication planning agencies, these guys look at the holistic view. They sit with the client, develop the client's business objectives, marketing objectives, and develop a communication strategy. And then say, we use so much of radio, so much of TV, so much of digital, so much of print, so much of activation, event, experiential, whatever, right? Depending on what the business objectives are. And they will have the information to know who they are targeting and what your consumption habits are. So if you are a Twitter fan, we'll find a way of getting to you on Twitter. But Twitter is not the only thing you are doing. Remember that. You're not 24/7 Twitter.
Correct.
You know, you're still listening to the radio. You still want entertainment on television. You're still going to the movies. You're going out, shopping malls, buying stuff. So we can still get to you at a supermarket or get your wife when she's shopping at the supermarket, right? So we have to find the different channels of communication. And digital, remember, is not only social media. It's how we engage with you, develop the different platforms that we can develop. You know, the famous platform that Nike developed many years ago about you know, the guys who want to jog. They developed a kind of iPhone application, you know, which measured how far you run, how you run every day, and then you can share that information with everybody else who runs, and how many calories you're burning, blah blah blah. So that's how they engaged with joggers. You know, using digital technology.
Yes.
So it's really about how clever you are at using the technology to engage with you.
40 years ago when you started as that copyist, that Xerox kid.
40 years ago, yeah.
Did you think that technology would change so fast in less than half a century?
I don't think any one of us did.
Ever expected?
No, I was amazed with the photocopying machine at the time. That was new technology at the time.
Yeah. What's the future?
I think the future is going to be extremely dynamic, and I think again, remember one thing is we are human beings, and we have some very simple human insights, right? You know, we like sport, we like competitiveness, we like music, we like entertainment. So anything that is weaved around, you know, things that we like to do, right? Technology is just enabling us to engage more effectively. Remember that, right? If there is a football match going on, you want to know what's happening, you can find out what's happening. So technology is helping you bring that information to you much faster, real time, right? Yeah. It hasn't changed anything else. You still love football, right? Except you don't have to wait for the following day to find out what happened. And more important is that when you find out what's happened, there's a sense of excitement you have got, and technology enables you to share that excitement with everybody. They're not even your friends. 90,000 Twitter friends, you know, they're your fans, they're not your friends.
Correct.
So you get excited, you can share it with them, and they can share that with other people. So what's happening is it enabling you to become a lot more homogeneous, a lot more transparent society. So for us, it's a question of how do we find ways and means of getting into those conversations. How do we bring the brand in those conversations? How do we bring the experience of the brand in those conversations? You know, people talk about, you have a good experience in a good restaurant, you will tweet straight away, I had a great meal and so on. So you had a bad meal, I had a bad meal.
That's right. So you don't get bored, huh? You don't wake up and say, oh goodness, I need to change careers now. I've done this for the last 40 years. I'm bored.
Oh, no way. Absolutely not. I wouldn't know what else to do.
Is that right?
I wouldn't know what else to do.
Keep doing it then.
Thank you.
Keep doing it, Bharat. Well done. And keep tweeting, okay?
Thank
it's good stuff. Humble billionaire, folks. He says he wouldn't know what else to do. This is what he was born to do, and he's been doing it for the last 4 decades and counting. He says that's the easiest part. The hard part now is maintaining, because he has a presence. His company, Scan Group, 8 countries across Africa and 27 affiliates. And yes, WPP, folks, that Sir Martin Sorrell outfit, Scan Group, man, they teaming up to take over this continent. All this week, folks, the CEOs, what makes them tick, Bharat, Thakrar, definitely is ticking. Tick tock, if you will, all the way to the top. You cannot find guests like Bharat, Thakrar anywhere else but right here on the bench on the award-winning station, K24. Where we are, yes indeed, you guessed it. Even in times of the right place, right time, we still all Kenyan.
All the time. I see, sorry.
Capital Talk is filmed at Fairmont, the Norfolk.